Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Katie and today I went to a library book sale. They're honestly one of my favorite places to get books. I try to go to the majority of library book sales in my area. If it's within like an hour drive, then I'm probably going to go to it. And I've definitely got some really good ones. I went to one a few weeks ago where books were 25 and 50 cents and that one was really awesome. And I picked up quite a few then. But at this one, hardbacks were $3, paperbacks were $1, or you could fill up a bag for 25. So that is what I did. So I'm going to show you everything I got for $25 from this. I feel like I did get a good amount of mysteries, but there's some other things mixed in there too. The first book is The Matzo Ball by Jean Meltzer. So this one is supposed to be like a funnier book, and our main character, she's Jewish, but she actually loves Christmas, and so like that's like her secret that no one knows. And so it's just supposed to be like just a pretty like, a heartfelt, funny piece about, accepting yourself and honesty. So I thought that would be a good one. Also picked up one of the fiction favorites. I get ads for these all of the time on Instagram. So I thought I'd pick one up just to kind of see if I liked it having multiple like stories in one when I thought about that. So the first one is Resurrection Walk. It is a Lincoln Lawyer novel. We also have The Mystery Guest, which is a maid novel. Change of Plans, which looks like it's a romance. And we have The Second Stranger, which kind of looks like it's probably a thriller. So, four different books, and then it tells you a little bit about them on the back of it. So, I've never really read where you've got like multiple different books by different authors all in the same book. So, thought it'd be interesting to try. They actually had a couple of these at the book sale, but I picked up one because Change of Plans and The Mystery Guest seemed like they would probably be good to me, and they'll be pretty short reads as well. The next book is Live a Little by Howard Jacobson. This one I grabbed really just because of the cover, and I read a little bit about the inside. So basically, we are following like a 90 something year old, and she forgets everything, including like her own children and stuff. But her tongue is like super sharp, and she stitches these different macrame messages in her needlework, and I guess she's like tormenting her two caretakers with different stories about her love affairs. So I thought this would be a pretty interesting one to read, and I just love the cover of it. Usually, if it has a cute cover, I'm probably gonna buy it, even though I shouldn't base my reads off of that. This book is actually the first one that I picked up whenever that I went in. I feel like someone was probably thinking about this one, but then put it back last second. So this is the Colosters, a novel by Katie Hayes. So we are following Anne, and she's going to New York City. She's going to be working for like the Museum of Art, and she's super excited. But then she ends up getting assigned to the Colosters, which is a medieval art museum and garden. And she's trying to get over her past in this. It says it's a story of the occult, or a story of ambition, or a tale of one or more mysterious psychopaths? Question mark. So I don't know. I think this would be like an interesting one. I feel like we're gonna have quite a few different things going on with it. It's not too big of a book, so it should be a pretty quick read. I did pick up quite a few historical fictions. I do like historical fictions. I feel like they're not always like my first choice, but there's a couple that I've read that I've absolutely loved. So I picked up a Burnable book by Bruce Hollensinger. So this one says it's everything you want in a work of historical fiction, fascinating, rich in period detail, and compulsive propelled by a compulsively engaging story. Even better, it's clever and witty. So this one, we are going to be in England in 1385, and so it says if you build your life around the secret lives of others, if you erect your house on the corrupt foundations of theirs, you soon come to regard all useful knowledge as your due. Information becomes your entitlement. So we're going to be in London. There's going to be betrayal. There's going to be murder. There's going to be different twists. So I feel like that there is going to be a lot going on with this one. Hopefully it'll be kind of like a fast-paced historical fiction. It sounded pretty interesting to me. I believe this one is also a historical fiction. This one is Bobbed Hair and Bathtub Gin by Marion Meddy. So this one is about writers running wild in the 20s. So I thought this one would be pretty fun. So the author is kind of like painting like a portrait of four extraordinary writers. So we learn more about Dorothy Parker, Zelda Fitzgerald, Edna St. Vincent Millay, and Edna Ferber. So we're going into like their lives and loves and literary endeavors in the spirit of the 1920s. So this one I felt like would be really fun. I also like the way that the pages look on this one. It's just really cute. So we'll see. I do really enjoy the 20s Great Gatsby kind of vibes. I'm sure that's what we're gonna get with this too. This next one is more of like a fantasy, which they had like a sci-fi fantasy section and it had just been like completely wiped out. Like some people were just like grabbing just like stacks of books and like throwing into their bag. The people that got there right at the start, I feel like were just like going crazy. So it started at 10. We ended up getting there at 10:30, which I'm honestly glad we did because it was so packed. And like I said, there's just people just like grabbing books and just throwing them into bags. I don't even feel like they were looking at what the books were. They were just grabbing them because they were in a certain section. So around like 11, I feel like that it had kind of died down some. All those like crazy people going wild over books were already out of there, so you could really look because it was kind of hard to get through at first and actually look at anything because there was just people like pushing their way through, just grabbing everything that they could just see, and it was a little bit chaotic. So honestly, wish we would have went even a little bit later. There was an insanely long line for a while, but by the time we checked out, like it was already gone. We just got to go straight up there, so it wasn't bad at all. But yeah, definitely in the beginning, it was a little bit crazy. But this one was a fantasy I managed to find because it wasn't in the fantasy section, which someone had already just taken everything from. This one is Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. This one I didn't read too much about whenever I was there, but I know that there's magic, there's murder, there's different secrets. There seems like there's going to be a lot going on with this one. And so our main character, her best friend was found dead, and the person that she loves is being accused of the murder. So there's just a lot going on here. And then I am going to probably take the cover of this off. A lot of these books were donated for the sale, so most of them actually aren't like library books, but this one is. So I usually just kind of like will cut the little seam and take the cover out of it. So that's something I'll probably do in a little bit just to kind of like make it more of my own book. I don't love the protective covers over them. Another like book with some magic to it, we have Hummingbird by Natalie Lloyd. So our main character is homeschooled. Her name's Olive, and she has brittle bone disease. And so she finally convinces her parents to let her go to a traditional school until I guess like her first day just goes like super wrong. And she ends up hearing whispers about a magical wish granting hummingbird. So if she can find that bird, then she can completely change everything. So we're gonna be following her. Like it's gonna be a pretty interesting one. Another book with some magical elements is Weave a Circle Round by Carrie Marin. So our main character, Freddie, she just wants to be normal. Her family is different. She has a deaf stepbrother, and then her little sister is, I guess, just like a really big geek. And to her, she doesn't want to really be associated with any of that. She just wants to survive school. And then these really odd neighbors move in next door, and they are not normal at all. And their house defines the laws of physics, so she ends up finding herself stuck in thousands of years in the past with her very weird neighbors. And that's only the beginning. So this one seems like it's going to be a pretty fun one. I feel like there's going to be a lot going on in this book. Also picked up a couple books that were book of the months. Let me see if I can get the other one out of here. So these two are both were book of the months at some point. This one is a historical fiction. This one, not too sure about. So this one is the library book by Susan Orlean, and I do have a book of the month subscription, and I've liked the majority of the books that I've gotten so far that I've read that have been book of the month. So I feel like usually if I see one, it's probably something I'm gonna like. So we're gonna be kind of following the path of the fire and like what it's done, but then also kind of like how that affects libraries as a whole and how libraries across the country around the world kind of change people's lives, how it's a cornerstone of our national identity. So I feel like this one is just going to be a really interesting read about libraries. I love books about books. And that's something I've said quite a few times before in like previous videos, but just if a book is about books, things like that, I feel like it's one I'm gonna love. So the other one is The Christie Affair by Nina de Gramont. So this one we are going to be in, I'm going to assume the 20s just based off how that looks. So we're going to be in 1925. It says, why would the world's most famous mystery writer disappear for 11 days? What makes a woman desperate enough to destroy another woman's marriage? How deeply can a person crave revenge? So we're going to have a lot going on in this 1920s setting book. So like I said, got quite a few historical fictions, but I feel like I don't read a ton of historical fiction, so I think it's going to be good for me to kind of like step out of that. And then I got a couple mysteries in there too. I picked up Death and Croissants by Ian Moore. This one seems like it's going to just be a very funny book, but also a mystery and from Thrift Books. But so we're going to be following Richard, and he runs a bed and breakfast, and apparently a guest has went missing. So the only trace was a bloody handprint on the wallpaper. And so then Richard kind of like reluctantly agrees to help figure out what happened here. And then things become really serious when someone marries one of his beloved hens. So you don't mess with Richard's chickens. So I feel like this one is going to be a pretty funny mystery book. I'm currently reading a mystery, so I feel like that kind of made me want to grab more mysteries. I'm reading so I'm currently reading Finley Donovan is Killing It, and I feel like because that's a mystery and it's funny that I kind of gravitated towards more books like that while I was shopping today. So one that kind of gave me the vibes of the cover of Finley Donovan is Killing It is Mugshots of Manhattan by Kristen Bricher. So this one, we are going to be getting a snapshot of New York City mystery. So we're following our main character, Liv, and she's a photographer, and she's just scored a job for a super popular pop star. So she's really excited about it. And then the music icon's estranged sister is threatening to turn photo ops into PR disasters, and then that sister ends up dead. So there is a lot of things going on with this pop star's inner circle that people don't really know about, and Liv is going to be trying to expose what's going on before she can bring the right mugshot to the police. So there seems like there's a lot going on, and they're trying to do all this before the killer strikes again. So we're going to be having a lot happening in this book, and kind of gave me Finley Donovan is Killing It vibes. So I picked it up. Also picked up The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I actually haven't read The Hunger Games before, and especially since the new book just came out, I felt like it'd be a good time to get into Hunger Games, especially if I can pick it up at a library book sale. The next book that I picked up is Victory City by Salman Rushdie. So this book definitely, I feel like, is out of what I would normally pick up, because we are going to be in 14th century southern India. So we have a lot that's going on with history right now. So it says that it's a saga of love, adventure, and myth that in of itself is a testament to the power of storytelling. The last book that I picked up was World Gone by Dennis Lethem. So this one, I really like how the like part of the cover is like this little like removable thing. I feel like it kind of made it stand out a lot more to me. And then I also like how the pages like they're like the like rougher paper. I don't really know how to describe it. I love books with the edges like that. I've bought in quite a few because that they look like that. So this one is also a historical fiction. We are in 1943 with this book. So it kind of seems like Joe is kind of making a new life for himself. He's moved and things seem to be going really well for him, but then there's a rumor that someone wants Joe dead. So he has to figure out who it is that wants him dead, or if he'll be dying. And then there's the ghost, a young boy who appears on the fringes of Joe's vision and seems to be trying to tell him something. So there seems to be quite a lot going on with this book. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to like this book or not. I feel like that there's going to be a lot going on, and it can either be done really well or really badly. So We'll see. I really liked how the cover is done for this book, though, so it seemed interesting enough. So that is all that I picked up from the book sale. I got quite a few books. Okay, so I picked up 16 books from the book sale. I felt like that was a pretty good deal. 16 books for $25 felt like that was a steal to me. I am so excited to dive into some of these books, and hopefully there'll be more library sales throughout the year that I can share with you and show you what kind of books that I pick up, and I can't wait to dive into these. So I hope that you'll stick around and subscribe so you don't miss more book videos from me.